What's good, family? Peace and blessings. It is me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boxing community. Shout out to M Vision Photography and Video. Shout out to the Louisiana All American Sports Network. And shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the Mighty Jaguars. In this particular boxing live stream, I plan on being here for a good time. However, not for a long time. I'm gonna talk about a variety of different boxing topics. I'm gonna give a quick recap of last week's fights that I didn't address, which I should have, but things been kind of busy for me. In addition to that, I'm gonna talk about Terrence Bud Crawford disrespecting Errol Spence Jr. In my personal opinion. I'm gonna give my prediction for Jerron Boots Ennis versus Stanionis. I know I always want to call him Stank on you. I don't know. Maybe it's an outcast thing. I don't know. Maybe. But I'm gonna give my prediction on that particular fight, and I'm gonna just talk about a variety of other different boxing topics in this real quick live stream. First and foremost, the first thing I want to address, and these first couple topics I'm gonna touch on. It might sound like I'm repeating myself and beating a dead horse, but personally, first and foremost, I don't like the hate that Deontay Wilder and Devin the Dream Haney kind of get online. Like, these are my two favorite fighters, Wilder and Devin the Dream Haney. And I don't know what it is. I mean, both of these guys are, are black men first and foremost. And secondly, like, they try to fight the best possible competition. They want all the smoke. Like, they are throwback fighters in terms of their mentality, in terms of trying to fight the best possible fighters they could. But yet they get so much hate. I don't understand that. I don't understand it for the life of me. To me, it makes no sense. But yet on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have somebody like Canelo Alvarez, who's been ducking David Benavidez for I don't know how long. Like, man, this dude has ducked David Benavidez like he's the plague. He ducked David Benavidez like he owes David Benavidez money. Like, come on, bro. Like, they praise this dude, but they drag Wilder and Haney, which I don't understand for the life of me. And not only that, Tank Davis, look, bro. Tank Davis is another one. Man, all these tanker maniacs and these tankaholics online, especially on X, man, y'all make me sick. Y'all disgusting. You know, for y'all to not realize, like, this dude don't want to fight no real competition. Truthfully speaking, you know, he lost that fight. Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, whether you believe it or not. And at the end of the day, the fact that, you know, him not fighting the best possible competition, and no matter what this dude does, like, his fans always come to his defense. And I mean, it's just disgusting to me, bro. So at the end of the day, like, bro, these tankaholics and tankomaniacs, man, y'all need to pump y'all brakes online, bro. It's getting to the point. It's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? And speaking of David Benavidez, it's been quite a bit of discussion in terms of Dimitri Bivol, dropping one of his straps, the WBC strap, and basically David Benavidez got a quote unquote email belt, and he's a WBC champion in the light heavyweight division. And a lot of people feel like Dimitri Bivol ducked David Benavidez, and I disagree. The reason why I disagree because, in all actuality, I felt like Dimitri Bivol won both fights between himself and Artur Beterbiev. Artur Beterbiev got the nod in the first fight. Bivol got the nod in the second fight. To me, I feel like you need to take care of that business, square that business away before going into a fight with David Benavidez. And truthfully speaking, David Benavidez has been waiting for years for Canelo to fight him. And like the coward that Canelo is, Canelo has ducked David Benavidez at every turn. And as a result, David Benavidez moved up to light heavyweight from super middleweight. He moved up from super middleweight to light heavyweight. And why can't he wait just one more fight to say, hey, I'm gonna fight the winner? Nah, if Bivol or Better Be, either one of them, whoever wins. Now, if they don't fight him right after the third fight in their trilogy, if they don't fight him immediately after, then it's a duck. But we got to cross that bridge first. In my personal opinion, I don't think it's a duck by Bivol, truthfully speaking. I think he's squaring away the business with Arthur Better Be, and then after that, he going to fight David Benavidez. Now, I know a lot of people talked about how David Benavidez used to whoop up on Dimitri Bivol in sparring, but I mean, hey, that don't mean that's going to be the outcome when they actually fight, if they actually do fight. I mean, either way, I want him to fight the third fight in the trilogy, and then transition to David Benavidez. David Benavidez should have the first crack at whoever wins out of those two. So that's my take on it. I don't think either one of them ducked. I don't think Dimitri Bivol ducked David Benavidez. That's my personal opinion. Next, last week's fights. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I wasn't moved by any of the fights last week. First, Tim Tszyu, beating Joey Spencer. I wasn't impressed by, Tim Tszyu's win over Joey Spencer. And truthfully speaking, I think if Tim Tszyu and Keith One-Time Thurman fought, I think Keith Thurman beats Tim Tszyu in his own backyard. I think the only way Tim Tszyu could get the dub is if they rob Keith Thurman on the scorecards. But at the end of the day, I really believe that Tim Tszyu, he got a knockout win. But at the end of the day, I honestly believe Keith One-Time Thurman is better than Tim Tszyu, and I think he beats him. That's just my personal opinion. Next, Janabek, he fought. I know I'm gonna screw this up. Ngamazinge, and Janabek got the dub. I'm not even gonna lie, Janabek another one. He really don't move me, and I think the thing with him is he's kind of like in no man's land. Like he a huge middleweight, but I don't know if he ready to move up to super middleweight. And truthfully speaking, I don't think he's gonna unify in the middleweight division anyway. I definitely don't think he's gonna become undisputed in the middleweight division. To me, I think he might as well move up to super middleweight because I'm gonna be truthful. He's the type of guy Canelo will want to fight anyway, to keep it a buck. So, despite what goes on between Terrence Bud Crawford and Saul Canelo Alvarez, I think it'll be better if he just moves to the super middleweight at this point, because unless you're really trying to unify or become undisputed at middleweight, I don't see the point you stand there, in my personal opinion. But, that's another story for another day. And then, of course, the last fight of the fights I want to break down is not really break down, but give my thoughts on. Philip Herkovich beat the juggernaut Joe Joyce. And I'm not going to lie, this, in my personal opinion, this was a trash fight. I was not moved. And I know Herkovich, he took the fight on short notice. But, he clearly has no stamina. Neither one of them. The fight got kind of sloppy at one point, but that's one thing I can see. But Joe Joyce, I know Big Bang Zhang, beat him twice. But he was eating a lot of Herkovich punches, just eating them. And, I think Joe Joyce still has something left in the tank. But this is my issue. When Wilder lost, everybody come out the woodwork. Oh, Wilder done. Wilder finished. Wilder done. He need to give it up. Give it up. Give it up. Wilder done. He need to retire. Give it up. I don't see the same energy for Joe Joyce. And guess what? Joe Joyce lost 3 consecutive fights. But yet y'all don't have the same energy for Joe Joyce that y'all have for Deontay Wilder. To me, again, the double standard is disgusting. You know, it's just sad to me. That's just my personal opinion. But I still think Joe Joyce, think he got a little bit left in the tank. But I'm gonna be honest with you. He need to stop trying to fight, you know, high level competition. When I say high level, I mean, you know, he was gonna fight against Lillian White. But even Herkovich, I think that was too much for him. I think he bit off too much. I think he need to go on a bum bash to keep it a buck. Like he need a few light touches consecutively. You lost 3 consecutive fights. You need 3 light touches, you know, to kind of get back into things. I don't want to retire yet because I'm gonna keep it a buck. I think if you give Joe Joyce a couple tune-ups, I think that'll be a nice body on Wilder's resume, me personally. But you know, I'm a Wilder fan. I mean, it is what it is. Next thing too, I kind of addressed this in my last boxing live stream, but I won't address it again. Uh, Terrence Bud Crawford. I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I did not. I don't think I did, but I may have. But Terrence Bud Crawford, you know, I think he was talking to Fight Hype or whoever he was talking to. He said Errol Spence Jr. is not a Hall of Fame caliber fighter. To me, that's insane. First and foremost, you know, I used to watch wrestling, you know, when I was coming up. I really don't watch it as much anymore. Like every once in a while, every blue moon. Especially when I go to my mom's house, my uncle has it on. So that's the only time I really watch wrestling. You know, I don't watch it like I did when I was a kid, especially like in the mid to late 90s. I really was heavy into it, but at this point, I'm not big into it like I used to be. But in wrestling, you used to have this thing called putting your opponent over. And basically all that means is, you know, giving him props, bigging him up, so that when you actually beat him, it makes the win look impressive. So if I had a match with somebody else, I would put that wrestler over. So when I beat him, it makes it look that much more impressive. However, if he beats me, then hey, I put him over verbally. So I didn't lose to a scrub. I lost to somebody that's a big deal. But for Bud to beat EJ and then turn around and talk about him, telling me he not a Hall of Fame caliber fighter. First and foremost, the thing that Terrence Bud Crawford probably doesn't realize, a lot of these fighters they fight, but they don't understand media, they don't understand PR, and they don't understand the fight game itself. And first and foremost, whether you believe it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, Errol Spence Jr. is the best fighter on Terrence Bud Crawford's resume, on his whole resume, despite you know, being, you know, undisputed in multiple weight classes, whatever. Like, even all that being said, Errol Spence Jr., even though he might not have been your toughest opponent, he's still the most impressive fighter that you have on your whole resume. So the fact that you just weaken your own resume, in my personal opinion, by, you know, talking down on him, to me is stupid. And in wrestling, that's what we would call burying your opponent, from the perspective of, instead of you bigging them up, you talking them down. So you talking down on Spence, you just weakened your resume because you slighted the best opposition that you fought in your entire career, whether you believe it or not. Because truthfully speaking, I mean, Madrimal might have been, you know, a tougher opponent, but no, prior to you fighting him, nobody really knew that dude like talking. But let's keep it a buck. So despite what he might say, he weakened his own resume first and foremost. Second of all, like if you look at Spence's resume, I mean, he had a huge win against Mikey Garcia. You know, he went over to England and he beat I can't think of old boy name. So he went over in the other person's backyard and got a strap. Then after that, he beat Sean Porter. He beat Udanis Ugas. Like, he pretty much collected every strap in the welterweight division for the exception of yours. And he had an impressive win against Danny Garcia when he came back. So I don't understand how you talk down on this dude. This dude, whether he believes it or not, he clearly has a Hall of Fame resume, because when we think of the boxing Hall of Fame, we act like, oh, we only think about people like, Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali and the late George Foreman, who died, not too long ago. But in the boxing Hall of Fame, you got people like, Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward. Hell, Rocky Balboa in the boxing Hall of Fame, a fictitious character in the movie. So, man, miss me with the nonsense. Like, Bud, he clearly doesn't understand, PR, and you just trashed the own, like, the best win you have on your resume, you trashed it by saying he not a Hall of Fame caliber fighter. Maybe it's just because he's just a grimy dude. But at the end of the day, bro, like, that was stupid. Clearly, he doesn't have people around him that put him up on game, because he clearly does not have that type of wherewithal. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know between the two fan bases, like, it was a lot of animosity leading up to that fight. But the fact that Errol Spence Jr. went against Al Heyman and went against the instructions of his advisors, and he went out his way to fight you, and he gave you a 50-50 split, even though he was the A side clearly when it came to being a box office draw. I mean, if anything, you should have been grateful for that. You should have been appreciative of that. But you weakened your own resume by disrespecting the best win and the best fighter you fought in your entire career. And to me, that's 100% and absolutely stupid, in my personal opinion. But for my Jerome Boots Ennis versus Stanionis prediction, I'm not going to lie. I think this is going to be a good fight. I would say it's a 50-50 fight, but I think it's closer to 55-45, 60-40 in favor of Jerome Boots Ennis. I think Jerome Boots Ennis is a better athlete. I think he's a better outboxer. And, his last couple of few fights, he has looked extremely irresponsible defensively. Because I'm not going to lie, at one point, if you go back to this channel like 3 years ago, I had a video talking about Jerome Boots Ennis. At that time, it was kind of like my highest viewed video. But truthfully speaking, at one point, like, he was getting a lot of comparisons to Roy Jones Jr. in terms of his athleticism. And I'm not going to lie, Jerome Boots Ennis went on a tear where he just was, just looking extremely impressive, destroying guys and people that really didn't want to smoke with him. And, even somebody like Keith One-Time Thurman, like, man, Keith Thurman really didn't want no smoke with Jerome Boots Ennis. And not only that, I'm not going to say Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford ducked him, but it was more of a situation where they realized this guy is up and coming, like Hungry Lion. Like, we looking for undisputed, and we looking to get bigger paydays and move on to greener patches from a financial standpoint. So he didn't get to fight those two, but at least he kind of decided, hey, like, I'm going to kind of do my own thing. I'm going to build my own resume. I'm going to build my own legacy. But I'm not going to lie to him, a couple fights with Karen, I think his stock kind of dropped after that. And a lot of people that was on that Jerome Boots Ennis hype train, they kind of hopped off. To me, I think he's the better boxer. I think he's the better athlete. I think he's a much better athlete than Stanionis. But I think the issue, man, salute to my brother Big Joe Town, standing on LDBC business. Salute, Big Joe. And the thing about Boots is, even though he hasn't looked all that great in his last few fights, I still think he has that type of upside and potential that he showed, a few years back, going back to my old video. And I think the thing about it, I think Stanionis, I think he's a better mid-range to inside fighter. I think he's a a very good inboxer. So when it comes to like dirty boxing and inside boxing, I think Jerron Boots Ennis wants to stay away from Stanionis in terms of inside fighting. So I think it'll be in Jerron Boots Ennis's best interest to outbox and use the athleticism on the outside as opposed to letting Stanionis pressure you, fight you from mid range and on the inside. At the end of the day, I think it's gonna be a good fight. I think it's a 60-40, 55-45 type fight in favor of Jerron Ennis. I hope he gets the dub because I want to see him, unify these two straps. And then on the other side, I want Brian Elmer Jr. to go get Mario Barrios strap so we can have an undisputed fight in the welterweight division, have an undisputed welterweight champion. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I want to see those two fighters fight for undisputed because I really believe that's an undisputed matchup. But if Stanionis wins, then it is what it is. But either way it could go, I want an undisputed welterweight champion. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when Devin the Dream Haney fully arrives at welterweight, after he get by his May 2nd fight and he beats up Ryan Garcia in a rematch. After those couple fights, all bets are off. And I really think, it's going to be something to see once Devin Haney fully arrives in the welterweight division. But until we get to that point, I want Ennis to win tomorrow against Stanionis. I want, on his side of things, I want Brian Elmer Jr. to go get that Mario Barrio strap, and then those two fight for undisputed. And like I said, when I started this live stream, I planned on being here for a good time. However, not for a long time. I appreciate my brother Big Joe Town, staying on LDBC business, dropping through, showing some love. In a little bit, I'm gonna do our live stream on Southern University's upcoming Blue versus Gold spring game on tomorrow. So all of my members of Jaguar Nation, look out for that. Hopefully you enjoyed this live stream, whether you're watching it live or you catching it on playback. Hope you enjoyed it. Go to my beloved sister's channel, the Queen, Sister Shower. She had a live stream. She still might be live, I don't know. But KG and Coach Hudson, a handful of the brothers was on her channel. So go over there to the Sister Queen Shower. Go check her and her channel out. Also, go check out my brother Jared Lovin Green on his channel. Every Sunday we do the Southern Baller Show. Go check out my brother Brent Fox on his channel with his show. It's just me starring Brent Fox. Also, go check out the brother Cadillac Red Supreme Beast Boxing Talk. Later on in the day, he's going to be BSing on the Beltway. So go check out Supreme Beast Boxing Talk. And go check out 7A Sports TV on his channel. He has two channels. 7A Sports TV is primary channel. His backup channel is the No 304 Show. Once a week, he does a live stream with the brother Blue Wave Fitness. And last but not least, go check out my brother Growing with Soul, formerly known as Soul Power, a.k.a. Gamed Up Kennels. Man, go check out Growing with Soul on his channel. I'll catch y'all on the rebound, and I'll catch y'all on my next live stream talking about Southern University. Peace and blessings to everybody. Peace and blessings, fam.